What's up, everyone? Today we're going to be breaking down the Sonic Frontiers trailers. I'm not really going to bother with a live reaction since I've already seen them, so there wouldn't really be much of a point of that. I'm just going to go through the trailers, both of them. I'm going to start with the Traversal, then go to the combat, and I'm just going to go through, talk about both, what I liked, what I didn't like. And then I'm going to get into my thoughts on where the franchise is as a whole. But we're going to start with the first big trailer, which is the Traversal trailer. And what I will say is, before I even started watching the trailer, the very first thing I noticed, these rails here look like such... They stick out like a sore thumb. They just look like random test assets that were stuck in the middle of the air for no reason because the devs didn't know where to put them, so they just shoved them there to put them somewhere else later. It looks so unnatural having those rails just hanging in the air without anything around them. Like, it doesn't look like level design, it looks like just random test assets. So that was the first thing that I reacted to, that I was just like, ugh. But then we actually start watching the trailer. Now, I'm in the same boat as a lot of other people with regards to Sonic's animations and the way that they look. They look really... They don't look bad necessarily. They just look very unnatural. I mean, if you look at if you look at this right here, you look at the way Sonic's running, and it's just something about the way he's running looks off. Like the way that his hands are just hanging behind him aimlessly, it looks weird. It doesn't look bad necessarily. It just looks really weird and like out of place. And that's not the only place that animations are a problem here. I mean, if you look right here, like the first case I showed, that doesn't look bad necessarily. It just looks unnatural. This though, this just looks bad. This looks bad right here. I mean, you can see that Sonic, it's like the speed at which he's moving doesn't match the speed of the animation, so it just looks so awkward and weird and aimless. Like, it looks so awkward. It's like he's walking in place but simultaneously not walking in place, you know? It just looks so weird. Something I will say about the trailers is overall they look really good. Or overall, the Traversal, like, the game looks good. I mean, the water, the foliage, the textures, I mean, it all looks really good. I mean, if you look at this shot right here where you see Sonic going down the rail, you can see the water, you can see the textures on the rocks. I mean, it looks good. I like how it looks, but I mean, you know, looks aren't everything when it comes to the quality of a video game. And, you know, if the looks are the best thing going for you, you've got a big problem. And speaking of problems, let's talk about this texture pop-in for a moment. The animations are very rough, but I think that they can be fixed, or at least improved before the game releases. But this texture pop-in, guys, is something else. Like, this texture pop-in is absolutely brutal. It's brutal. If you look at this, yes, you can see that the platforms, the rocks are literally spawning in as Sonic's landing. You can see that as he goes down, pause, you can see that a lot of the rocks are not spawned in, and then when he lands, they spawn in. They don't spawn in until after Sonic lands on the ground, which is just ridiculous. How is the draw distance in this game so bad? Why is the pop-in so extreme? Like, I don't understand this. I really don't understand why it's so bad. I get that pretty much all open world games have pop-in to some extent, but I mean, and that's not even the only example of it. I mean, if you look right here, you can see that as Sonic's running across the bridge, you can see the grass in the distance spawning in. I'll play it again. You can see the grass in the distance spawning in as Sonic gets closer to it. Like, that's really bad. And there was another case of it that I wanted to show right here. Just another example of how problematic it is. It's like you can see the platforms right there in the top left as Sonic is running towards them. They just popped into existence so close when they're so close to you that it's so jarring when objects are spawning in when you're that close to them, especially in a game where you're moving as fast as Sonic can move. When things take that long to spawn in, you have no time to react to things that are in front of you, and it's just going to lead to you fucking up a lot of jumps just because you can't see what's in front of you. It's not good. Now, to get into something else that I've seen a lot of people upset about, a lot of people are upset about the perceived lack of momentum, as in Sonic can speed up from a standstill on an incline and such and things like that. Personally, that's not as big of an issue for me, just because, I mean, given how fast Sonic can move, it makes sense to me that he could accelerate even while on an incline. I mean, I guess people long for the days of the adventure style where the physics were more attuned to reality, and I mean, I like the adventure physics, but I also like, I guess, the Unleashed stuff, or the boost, where you could just sort of boost up anything regardless of it was an incline. So for me personally, the momentum stuff's not as big of a problem. Like, it could be a problem if it's badly implemented into the game, but I mean, the issue of the momentum stuff isn't as bad for me as it is for some other people. Now, this is another thing. Let's see if I can find this here. Bam. This is another thing I saw in the trailer that irritated me, that I did not like. I'm not even totally happy about the fact that this game is open world in the first place. I don't think an open world game is really what Sonic needs. I don't think it's great for the style of game that Sonic usually has. But if you're gonna do an open world game, you've got to design things in such a way that players don't need giant glaring, hey, look at me, I'm a giant big ass question mark hint style thing, you know? If you're gonna have an open world game, the level design needs to be intuitive enough that you don't need to stick giant question mark signs in relevant areas to tell players that there's something to investigate. They should be able to just figure it out intuitively by looking at the world around them. And in this specific case right here, you might get the idea to interact with these blue flames just by looking at them. You might see the pattern they're arranged in and think, oh, maybe I should interact with that. But the fact that the devs have stuck a giant question mark sign next to them to spell out to you that you need to interact with them tells me that the developers aren't really confident in the design of their game, in that they're not confident in their ability to make an open world game with proper intuitive level design, which is a big red flag, admittedly, since the whole point of an open world game is to discover things on your own. And if you have to be explicitly told where everything is or what to interact with, that kind of defeats the point of making it an open world game in the first place, you know? Now let's cut to this part where we see Sonic running through the open field. I have to say, guys, I really hope that Sonic can move faster than this. Whether it's a way to upgrade his speed or whatever else. I really hope he can move faster than this, because in an open world game, and especially one that is as big as this one appears to be, you have to have ways of getting around very quickly, or the backtracking will pile up super, super quickly. And if this is the fastest Sonic can move, I picture this game being full of backtracking, full of constantly having to run back and forth throughout the same areas over and over and over and over again. And if your game is going to feature that, you got to be able to move faster than this. So like, I really hope that this is not the fastest that Sonic is able to move, because if it is, this game's in trouble. Now on to something else, which are the puzzles. These puzzles look so unbelievably simplistic that I don't even think you can consider these puzzles. I mean, this isn't really a puzzle. It's just a walk across the glowing tiles mini game. Like, this isn't a puzzle, it's a does your brain work properly test. You know, and if you're gonna have puzzles in your game, put some effort into them. Put some effort into actually making them engaging. Don't just do the classic walk across the glowing tiles shit that games have been doing for decades, because that's not interesting, it's not engaging, it's just tedious. Now, I know I bashed the game a lot up until this point, or I say criticizing, some would say bashing, but I mean, if I could compliment this trailer for anything, I would say that it at least looks like it has a Sonic game feel to it. You know, the usual suspects are here, you know, speed boosters, grind rails, springs, climbable walls, you know, like it feels like it would, or it looks like it would have like a Sonic feel, like the experience of being a Sonic game, even though it's open world. So that's something that I would say that I like about it, but I mean, you know, it's hard to compliment, or it's hard to say much about feel when you don't actually have the game in front of you. There's only so much you can get from a trailer in that case. Another thing I like is I do like the weather effect, since it is actually raining in this portion of the trailer. It's probably safe to assume that there's some sort of a weather cycle in this game, be it maybe it's rain, snow, wind, you know, cloudy, maybe. I might be getting my hopes up here, so I don't want to speculate too much, because I might be getting my hopes up for nothing. But it seems like there's some sort of variety in the weather. It's not going to be just sunny daydreams the entire time, which is another thing that does seem pretty interesting to me. Now, there is one big negative that I have to get into, though, before we move on to the combat trailer, which is that the way that this has been marketed and presented to us as fans has been so bad. Even in the quality of this trailer, or not the quality of the trailer, but rather the presentation of it. Sonic spends so much time walking around and not really doing anything, which is something that is really irritating for me, because, you know, if you're Sega, this is the game trailer. This is supposed to be the thing that hypes fans up and gets us excited and gets us to want to play the game when it comes out. But Sonic just spends so much time walking in place. It's like they wanted to show off how good their animations are, when the animations were one of the worst fucking parts of this entire thing. And because Sonic spends so much time moving slowly, it just brings your attention to the shit animations even more. This is probably the thing that irritates me the most about the entire demo or trailer, even more than all the things I just criticized, is that why does Sonic spend so much time walking around and not actually doing anything? You know, this is your chance, again, if you're Sega, this is your chance to sell people on your game And it's like they put so many restrictions on what can be shown and what can't be shown that huge portions of the trailer are just Sonic doing absolutely nothing at all. And it's really confusing to me as to why it's just presented in this way. Like, I don't understand why. I just feel like the trailer could have been presented to us in a much better way that would have actually shown off more of the game. And overall, the world just looks kind of barren, you know? Like, it's not horrible. Like, it's not like there aren't things around. There are things around, but it's just, you know, in an open world game, if you want to be engaging and actually keep the player's attention, you need to have more than just surface level things to interact with. You have to give players a reason to actually want to go above and beyond and to search things. And if all you're showing is like, oh, jump up here and get some rings, or jump over here or to get an extra life, or go over here to get some meaningless little collectible item, like that's not good design. You have to give the player a reason to want to explore, and I worry that this game is not going to do that, because the world is big, but at the same time it's big, but at the same time it feels like it's really empty sometimes. Like, you're running across these giant plains. I'm thinking, okay, but to do what? You know? Like, I just, that's something that's also got me, like, highly skeptical. Yes, this is a big world, but I mean, is there going to be a motivation to actually explore it? Or is everything just going to be surface level, not really content? But it's, you know, this is an open world game, so that's just the way we're doing it type of thing. That's something that's got me on the fence quite a bit. Like, it's got me very, very, very skeptical, guys. All right, now let's move on to the combat trailer. Now, I will say that the combat trailer has me more enthusiastic than the Traversal stuff did, but I'm still not necessarily excited about it. I mean, this sort of seems like nothing more than just wait for the enemy to stop shocking and then hit it, which is nothing we haven't seen before in a video game. So that didn't really have me blown away. But I will say that a lot of Sonic's attacks do look somewhat interesting. Like this one, for instance, where he does the wheel in the air, and here the tornado. Although with the tornado, I know I already mentioned this a lot with the Traversal trailer, but I really have to mention it again because it's such a problem. That animation looks so weird. Like, I'm gonna play it in half speed so it's easier to see. But I mean, like, it looks so, not that part, but this part where Sonic is spinning, that's not animated at all. He's just spinning around in a circle in an awkward pose. It's not animated at all, and it just looks so unnatural. It just looks so unnatural and weird. But I mean, it does look like Sonic has some pretty cool moves that he can use. This running around the enemy in a circle thing seems like it has a lot of potential depending on how it's used. He also has this cool ability where he does a lot of rapid energy attacks. It seems like there's a lot of combo potential overall with a lot of Sonic's moves here, which is kind of interesting to me. Like, if you knew the right order to use them, or the right moves in the right situations, so you could chain things together pretty consistently or seamlessly. So that part of it I do like. I will say that the enemy designs themselves look kind of bland. I mean, they're certainly not terrible. I've seen way worse, but I don't know, they just look a bit generic, a bit not terribly memorable. I mean, like, I'm not even sure what they're supposed to be. Maybe that's part of the surprise. I'm not really even sure what they're supposed to be. They're kind of there. I don't know. So the designs, I'm kind of meh, but I mean, the combat looks like it has potential if it has actual depth to it. And if you can actually chain attacks together, and if it gives the combat an extra layer of depth in that way, so that there's more to learn and there's more to get you to think about besides just mash A and kill everything. Because it doesn't seem like they're going for the mash A and kill everything approach this time. I mean, this enemy is probably the only one that looks somewhat interesting. Granted, it just looks like a bigger version of the smaller enemies that I just showed you. But I mean, you know, it looks... I mean, you know, it looks fine, I guess. It just... If there are more enemies that have interesting designs like this one, I think it could go a long way. But the smaller enemies are just sort of... don't know. But this one looks pretty nice. Okay, so now that I've gone through both trailers and done a little bit of talking about what I liked and what I didn't like from both of them, now I'm going to get into another point, which is my frustration with this franchise as a whole. This franchise has been wallowing in mediocrity for at least a decade now. I'd say that the last game in the Sonic franchise that I played in terms of release date, the last one that I played and really enjoyed was probably Unleashed. That was probably the last one that I played and really enjoyed from beginning to end. I know Colors and Generations have a lot of hardcore supporters, but those games didn't quite do it for me the way Unleashed did. They're certainly solid games, but they just didn't do it for me in the same way. I think Lost World is actually better than a lot of people say it is. A lot of people say it's terrible. I don't think it's terrible. I think it's okay enough, but I still think at the core it's a pretty mediocre game. And I didn't even play Forces, but from what I've seen of it, it looks like another just forgettable mess that I probably just shouldn't waste my time on. This franchise can't afford any more mediocre to terrible games, guys. At least as far as the 3D stuff is concerned. I mean, you might say like, oh, what about Sonic Mania? I mean, I don't really care about Sonic Mania or Sonic Origins, especially Sonic Origins, since Origins is just a re-release of the classic Sonic games that were made almost 30 years ago, and people still will insist on telling you that Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the greatest game ever made, which is like, and I'm just sort of like, okay, whatever. But this franchise can't afford any more mediocre to terrible games. Like, this franchise needs a genuinely good 3D game. Because if Sonic Frontiers flops, I honestly don't know where the series goes from there. I have no idea what the future of this series is going to be on the video game side of things if Frontiers ends up being a flop. I know Sonic has been doing well with movies and TV and such like that and other forms of media, but on the video game side of things, if Frontiers ends up being another mediocre, forgettable experience like Forces was, or worse, I just don't know where the series goes from there. And that's a really sad thing for me to say, because I've been a fan of this series ever since I was a kid, and I want it to be better than what we've seen in these trailers, because I don't hate these trailers, but they don't do it for me. They don't get me excited to want to play the game, because they have too many problems for me. And you know, we're 6 months out from release at most, so what we get in the final game is probably going to be very similar to what we've seen in these trailers. And it just, I want Sonic to be better than just forgettable mediocrity, because I know that he can be better than that, because he has been better than that. And it just saddens me to see how, I don't know, it just saddens me to see how the decline in this franchise over the years. I mean, to be honest, this might be a hot take, but I prefer the Sonic games from 2003 to 2009 over the games we've gotten, say, since Lost World. Or say what you want about games like Shadow the Hedgehog and Sonic 06 and Sonic and the Secret Rings and Black Knight and Unleash. I mean, you can like those games or you can dislike them, but at least each one of those games actually had ambition behind it and was trying to give us a unique experience that we had never gotten before in a Sonic game. Even though all those games aren't great, at least it felt like they were trying to be great. That's something that I really do like about those games, especially in the case of 06, because this is definitely a hot take, but I don't actually think 06 is nearly as bad as the majority of the fandom thinks it is. But that's a topic for another day. I take that era of Sonic any day over the more recent games where it feels like Sega has no idea what they're actually doing with the character and that they have no idea how to make a good game, so they're just settling for the most mediocre trash imaginable. Like, Lost World is an okay game, but it doesn't feel like an okay game that tried to be a great game and failed. It feels like an okay game that was never really trying to be more than an okay game. And to me, that's the big difference. It's like the ambition that Sonic games used to be full of is gone, and it's been gone for a while now. And to me, I think that's the biggest problem with this series and why it's not successful. The ambition's not there anymore. And maybe Sonic Frontiers can bring it back. I don't think that making a game open world or making a series open world automatically makes it ambitious. I don't really think that at all. I don't know, guys. I don't really know what else to say. It's just, this series needs a good 3D game. It needs one, and if Sonic Frontiers flops, I don't know what the future of the series is, or if it even has a future, to be honest. But that's about all I have to say about it. Feel free to let me know in the comments if you guys agree with the things I said about the trailers, or if you didn't. Are you hyped? Are you not? Are you skeptical like I am? Are you hopeful? Feel free to let me know what you guys are thinking. See ya. Hey everyone, if you made it this far, that means you watched the video all the way to the end. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you giving my video a chance, and I hope you have an amazing day. If you liked the video, consider hitting the like button or subscribing to my YouTube channel. Thanks again for watching, and go out and make today a special one. See you next time.